90年34岁。
I'm 34 this year, born in 1990, and honestly, I do want to get married now. Yesterday, I saw someone online say, "Isn't the single life great? Why rush into marriage?" And I get it. Living a high quality single life is pretty great. I quit my job because I didn't like it, and now I can go traveling whenever I want. I have loads of time to focus on my interests and hobbies, which a lot of married friends envy. But here I am, already 34. Most of my friends around my age already have kids in their teens. I feel like the life I'm living now is something they could easily have anytime, but what they have, a family, is something I'll miss out on if I don't take the leap soon.
讲真的，我
My fifth attempt at a blind date has ended in failure. Honestly, I'm probably more eager to get married than most, so I've been trying to date older guys or men who have had short-lived marriages without kids, thinking they'd be as keen as me to settle down. But apparently I was wrong. Just because a guy is older or divorced doesn't mean he's in a hurry to get married. And dating younger guys isn't an option either. They're usually not serious. It's tough out there. The creator of this post, Mumu, has now called it quits after her fifth blind date attempt. She's soft-spoken, with a sweet appearance that makes her look younger than she is. In the comments, people mention she studied medicine, but quit her job and now stays home, where she has had more time to think about marriage and family, along with worries about fertility. Some say she might have put too much focus on her career before, enjoying the freedom of single life. Others think her high standards, especially when it comes to finding the perfect partner and lifestyle, have held her back. Now, even though she's feeling the pressure to marry, she doesn't seem to realize that her standards might be keeping her single.
作为34岁的单身女性，我经常被问到，
As a single 34-year-old woman, I'm often asked, "Why are you still so picky at your age?" Every time I hear that, I feel exasperated. I mean, am I wrong to want a better life, to not settle? What's wrong with wanting a partner who's a good match? People say that men are more desirable at 40, so why should women have to lower their standards just because we're a little older? I want someone I can grow with, someone who won't hold me back. My ideal partner would be someone I can truly connect with on a deep level. When you think about it, women my age usually have careers, financial independence, and a wealth of experiences. We know what we want and how to make a relationship work. Isn't that a strength? I don't think age should restrict my pursuit of happiness. Whether I'm 29 or 39, I have the right to look for the right person. I'm realistic about how tough it is out there, but I'd rather embrace being single and work on bettering myself than settle for less. When the right person comes along, I'll be worthy of them too. They say like attracts like, so if I want someone exceptional, I need to be exceptional myself. I won't marry out of loneliness. True happiness is built on respect and understanding, so I refuse to lower my standards due to societal pressure. With confidence, I believe that when I'm at my best, the right person will come along naturally. This post creator, feay, has high standards when it comes to finding a partner, especially given her good looks and sense of pride. Even after 30, she refuses to compromise, wanting a perfect match. She's met many eligible men on dates, but none have met her expectations, leaving her at risk of becoming a so-called older leftover woman. In the comments, some people agree with feay, saying marriage is a big life choice, so why rush? It's better to wait for the right man. After all, if you marry well, your life will go smoothly, but if you don't, you may end up regretting it. Others argue that feay's standards are unrealistic, pointing out that age isn't on her side. If she keeps insisting on finding a wealthy, attractive man her age or younger, she might soon miss her chance to have children. Many women in big cities are high achievers who develop a clear image of their ideal partner. But as time goes by, this pursuit of perfection can stand in the way of finding love.
90年34岁的
A woman who is now 34 years old has been on 10 unsuccessful blind dates and is feeling nearly hopeless and withdrawn. She's now reached out to me for help. Xiaoying, a gentle-looking woman, has been working in the beauty industry in Shenzhen for over 2 years, but her social circle is mostly female. Her friends and family have introduced her to potential matches 10 times, but none have worked out. Although she's independent, talented, and attractive, she just hasn't found the right man. Being single and in her 30s feels like a stigma, and every family gathering brings more pressure, pushing her to the point of losing confidence. Once cheerful and outgoing, she now feels a bit down. I went to the pagoda temple to make a wish. I don't know when I'll finally meet my Mr. Right. I'm already in my 30s, and my parents are really worried. What kind of partner are you looking for? I'd like someone who's at least 1.7 meters tall, preferably living here in Guangdong. He should have a good personality, a sense of romance, and be financially responsible. Ideally, he would be motivated, ambitious, and hardworking. Although she's 34, Xiaoying doesn't want to settle, but can't escape the family and social pressures. In bustling Shenzhen, she wonders what her path will be and where her true love might be found. In recent years, as China's economy has slowed and the job market has tightened, more people with bachelor's degrees are choosing to pursue master's degrees, and then even PhDs. By the time these women finish their doctoral studies, they're often 28 years old or older, labeled as older single women. At this point, many realize that while they were studying, their peers married and started families, leaving them feeling as though they've missed their ideal time for marriage.
我是85年的。
I was born in 1985. Today, I'm 39 years old, unmarried with a PhD. I have a car, a home, and savings. I've worked hard to make myself a high achiever, hoping that eventually I'd meet an equally accomplished man to marry. But it never occurred to me that my age would be held against me. I worked hard in school, earned money, and built a life for myself. Wasn't it all for the chance to find someone outstanding? Yet now, the men I'm introduced to are either divorced with children or have no ambition. Frankly, it's upsetting. I've worked so hard for so many years, only to find that now I'm expected to settle for a man who's not on the same level. This woman once believed that the more accomplished a woman is, the more likely she would meet a compatible partner. Yet, after years of hard work and success, she faces the reality that many accomplished men her age are now turning to younger women in their 20s. The Chinese marriage market is unforgiving when it comes to a woman's age. As Chinese urban women become more financially independent and educated, marriage is no longer an economic necessity. For many men, however, financial concerns dampen their enthusiasm for marriage. The cost of marriage has become high, with substantial financial commitments that include housing, cars, weddings, and other expenses. For example, in small and mid-sized cities, the cost would look like this. A house at 1 million yuan, 100,000 yuan for renovations, a car at 150,000 yuan, a bride price of 180,000 yuan, gold jewelry at 40,000 yuan, and a wedding at 100,000 yuan. Altogether, a marriage would cost a man around 1.57 million yuan, a sum beyond the savings of most average families. For many men, these financial demands feel like a full-scale drain, prompting some to abandon the idea of marriage altogether. Among millennials, more and more people are choosing to stay single. The high costs and risks associated with marriage, especially in today's economic climate, have made lying flat, a term for opting out of traditional pressures, an increasingly appealing choice.
I'm 42, single, and have been working for 10 years. I've saved 600,000 yuan and live off the interest. I don't plan to exhaust myself for a woman, and I believe staying unmarried is the biggest trend for the next decade. I'm committed to staying single for life. By not marrying, I'm financially free. I avoid all the major expenses, house, car, wedding gifts, family connections, all of which are high cost without benefiting us men directly. As long as I don't get stuck with car loans, house loans, or the pressure to pass on the family line, my 4,000 yuan monthly salary is more than enough for me. If you get married, you're committing to a life of hard work and debt. My life? Free and easy. Once you marry, you fall into a debt trap you can never escape. Brothers, I'm telling you, choosing not to marry is your biggest blessing and key to happiness. I spend less than 50 yuan a day, and I'm the wealthiest guy in the village when it comes to cash on hand. Staying single means I don't need to try to win over women or lose my head to love, which could end in financial and emotional loss. I've sidestepped all the risks of marriage from the start. Don't live in someone else's perfect world. Live in your own.
This man's words struck a chord with many online. Some commented that the real issue is whether marriage is truly worth it. They're concerned that, after all the effort to find a wife, men often shoulder most of the burdens. They also question the practicality of raising children in today's society, given how difficult it can be to ensure a good life for themselves. Others went as far as to argue that those without financial means shouldn't bring children into the world, as they're likely to face intense pressure in today's high-stakes environment. Many feel marriage has lost its meaning in a society where simply surviving has become such a challenge. China, known for its large population of 1.4 billion, is seeing a growing trend where more people choose not to marry or have children. In fact, the number of registered marriages in China has been on a steady decline for the past decade. On November 1st, China's Civil Affairs Department released data showing that about 4.7 million couples registered for marriage in the first 3 quarters of 2024, a drop of 16.6% compared to the 5.7 million in the same period last year. Chinese demographers predict that new marriages will fall to around 6.3 million couples in 2024, which would mark the lowest annual number since records began in 1986. In 2023, a total of 6.8 million couples married, a far cry from the peak of 13.5 million in 2013, a nearly 50% decrease in a decade. This downward trend in marriage has become a hot topic on social media platforms like Weibo. Analysts point to unresolved issues in Chinese society, such as the lack of gender equality and the burdensome practice of expensive bride prices and housing as marriage prerequisites. The sluggish economy adds to the challenge, with many young people facing pay cuts, layoffs, or job scarcity. With the added responsibility of supporting parents and young children, the financial pressure of marriage can be overwhelming. Tom, a 23-year-old Chinese student studying abroad, told Radio Free Asia that out of all his friends, only 2 have married. Most of his peers place marriage low on their priority list, valuing personal goals and career building over settling down. This generational shift reflects a changing perspective on marriage, where younger generations prioritize self-fulfillment over the traditional path of early marriage. Tom said, "There's a saying in China, marriage is the grave of love, and love doesn't need a certificate." This mindset is quite popular among young people. Many see marriage as a form of validation imposed by others, preferring to trust their own feelings and avoid being bound by marriage. What's more, many young people in China who want to get married come from divorced families, which makes them more cautious about marriage. They've seen their parents' failed marriages and don't want their own futures to suffer the same fate. Tom believes that many people his age do hope to get married, but economic factors and differing perspectives on marriage between men and women make young men hesitant to commit. Emily, also a student abroad, has a different perspective on why Chinese women may not want to marry early. She notes that most women her age are only children and cherished by their families, unlike previous generations that prioritized sons and faced economic pressure to have daughters marry quickly. Emily said, "I think the one-child policy has given opportunities to this generation of women that they may have never had otherwise. In families with only daughters, I don't think any parent would want their daughter to marry casually. Unlike the previous generation, my generation doesn't feel a need to sell off their daughters. In fact, many women already have their own property and other assets before marriage. With this kind of independence, they don't feel as urgently bound to family life and aren't as focused on marriage as previous generations were. Nowadays, women no longer look to marriage for the things they want out of life." Emily, who was researching China's birth policies, said that the focus on whether young people register their marriages is primarily rooted in concerns over low birth rates. She's interviewed several women born in the 1990s and who have received calls from community centers pushing them to marry and have children. These women tend to have a negative view of marriage, and even some patriotic youth aren't necessarily inclined to follow national policies on marriage. Emily explained, "In the end, the government's concern over marriage is actually about encouraging childbirth. The ultimate goal is to have young people give birth. But these patriotic youth have a lot of internal conflict. I interviewed a girl in her 20s who said that the country's policies are great and always right, but then concluded that since they don't have enough money, they can't have children." She said that a lack of resources, healthcare, and social security is why they won't marry or have kids, though she insists that these aren't the government's fault. The party's indoctrination has really created some contradictions. The instability of the past 3 years has only intensified these pressures, impacting young people's outlook on starting families. Under Xi Jinping's leadership, China has imposed increasingly strict controls over all aspects of society, which may ultimately affect the marriage rate. A netizen, Mr. Chi, commented that many young people are actually passively resisting the Chinese government by choosing not to marry. He said, "The government used to say that one child is enough, but now they're pushing marriage and childbirth on us. What does that make us? Is our country really the animal farm we've heard about? So we resent it deep down and are resisting by choosing not to marry or have children." Mr. Chi feels that both economic challenges and a sense of disillusionment with Chinese society have led him and many of his peers to choose not to marry. He said, "Many of us are unemployed, and society is full of hostility. We don't have a sense of security or happiness, and we have no real hope for the future. We're just in a state of lying flat, so what's the point of getting married?"